Observing myself as a critical reader in English 201. To start, I want to go back to way before this class began and give my background with reading. From an early age, I was always encouraged to read. My grandmother was my first introduction to books, and when me and my cousins would go over, we would find a new stack of books from Goodwill every week on the kitchen table. This really inspired me to pick up reading, and from about kindergarten to 6th grade is when I read the most. The books I read included The Giving Tree to Harry Potter and the Lightning Thief series. To say the least, I loved to read and it was something I did for fun. Then, from about 7th to 8th grade is when it really went downhill, and I started focusing on sports more. This would only grow as I went on to high school. I rarely touched a book in those 4 years, and the only one I could remember reading was Sarah's Key. I had no motivation, and I didn't see the value in reading anymore. Reader response to me is a tool that we use to help us reflect on our reading. It had probably the biggest impact on me as a critical reader. Our reader responses represented each one of our personal opinions and reactions to the story. In writing my reader response to Raymond Carver's The Cathedral, I found myself looking at the world through the eyes of a blind man. This brought a whole new perspective into my life. What reader response most importantly does is make the reader realize how they can personally relate to the text and learn from it. Reading strategies. All of the reading strategies we used helped me understand whatever we were working on better, but two that I found most effective and the ones I most frequently used were rereading and circling, underlining, and making notes. After all the short stories or poems we read, rereading was immediately the most important thing. It makes you notice the little differences in the text that you did not often recognize before. I also used it with my personal book. It did come in handy after I underlined something or made a note about it, and that was my second most important reading strategy. When reading, underlining or marking something that stands out in the text helps me to remember it. I do this especially with my personal book because there's so many little life lessons to take out of it. The digital tools didn't help me as much as a reader response did in other reading strategies. For me, it was more of a comfort thing. I enjoy writing my own notes, crossing things out, and writing in the margins. What the digital tools did was help me organize all of my work. My handwriting has been compared to chicken scratch many times before, and I can't argue. Sometimes I can't even read it. What digital annotation did for me was organize my work so it looked neater. When we were reading the poems, this especially helped. Using different colors to highlight different aspects of poetry helped me remember things better. The other online tool I liked was the journal. Again, the journal is personal, and that's what I am most attracted to when reading. How can I personally relate to this and learn from it? When reading the things they carried, the fact that someone carried a dead man's thumb with them was just weird to me. I made a point of this in my journal. Some could have had different opinions about it, but that is why the journal is so important to me. The journal provided us with a place to write freely of what we thought of the story. It did not measure right or wrong answers, but rather what each one of us got out of it. The connections I made with critical reading don't really pertain to the classroom. Of course, we're going to need to be able to critically read in everything we do. The connections I made were with everyday life, though. All three of them have to do with keeping our brains sharp, and they all coincide with each other. The first being that reading isn't something that will go away. As we grow old, it only becomes more important, and skills we learn in this class will stick with us forever. And the second two have to do with taking care of your brain, which reading does for us. If the brain is the most important organ in your body, each one of us should be strengthening it every day. This is what reading does. My biggest challenges came from poetry and the literary terms and devices that came with it. It's a different type of reading for me. To understand it, I have to read very slowly and reread many times because poems are not straight up like stories, and they have many layers to them. This is where the digital annotations came in handy for me the most and really helped me learning how to break down poetry. By using digital annotation, I was able to highlight and point out things like imagery, personifications, and alliterations, and I was able to overcome all my poetic challenges. My aha moment wasn't spurred from any specific assignments that we did, but rather over the course of the first couple weeks of the class. Each thing that we read and analyzed led up to my aha moment. As I was doing my assignments, I realized that everything that we read can relate to our lives in some way or another. Reading is so important because it can reach anyone, and books reach everyone on all subject matters. The more you read, the more you can relate and be involved in so many different subjects with so many different people. My aha moment was basically that by reading, we could benefit our everyday lives so much more. The most memorable experience with literature is also a part of my aha moment, I guess. I can 100% say that this course gave me motivation to read again, and it's something I'm honestly very excited and grateful for. All the tools we used helped me deeper understand how to read properly. Reader responses, journals, and digital annotations aren't things I'm going to keep doing with regular books, but they all help me understand that reading is communication between people, and when reading, we learn to grow as a person. In The Life of Pi especially, the messages about life are endless, and there is something always new I could think about to apply to my life. The most memorable experience from this class is learning that reading helps us grow as people, and hopefully inspires us to help others grow and help us better our society as a whole.